Carl Hall's routine patrol on Zaria takes an unexpected turn as he stumbles into a hidden Tarian temple complex. The human soldier's breath catches in his throat, his eyes widening at the sight of ornate architecture and pulsing energy fields. Disoriented by the alien environment, Carl's hand brushes against an ancient device. A burst of light engulfs him, and the temple seals shut with a resounding thud. Trapped inside, Carl finds himself face-to-face with Belle, a young Katarian female. Her alien features contort in horror at his intrusion. Before either can react, the temple's AI announces, "Mating ritual initiated. Compatibility process engaged." Carl's body burns as the device begins altering his biology. He doubles over, muscles spasming as his DNA rewrites itself to match Katarian physiology. Belle's initial disgust morphs into concern as she realizes the gravity of their situation. "What's happening to me?" Carl gasps, watching his skin take on a faint blue tinge. Belle's multifaceted eyes narrow. "The temple has chosen you as my mate. We must complete the ritual, or we both die." Carl's military training kicks in as he assesses the situation. The temple's challenges loom before them, each designed to test their physical and mental compatibility. Failure means death, but success could grant humanity access to advanced Katarian technology, a game-changer in the ongoing human-Katarian conflict. As they navigate the first chamber, Carl's transformed body struggles to adapt. Belle hesitates, torn between her duty to her species and the growing connections she feels to this human. She extends a hand, helping Carl to his feet. "Why are you helping me?" Carl asks, suspicious. Belle's antennae twitch. "Because we're in this together now. Like it or not." They push deeper into the temple, facing increasingly dangerous trials. Carl's human ingenuity complements Belle's Katarian knowledge as they solve puzzles and overcome obstacles. With each challenge, the stakes grow higher. In a moment of respite, Carl notices ancient glyphs on the walls. "Belle, what do these mean?" She studies them, her expression grave. "This isn't just a mating ritual. It's a key to an ancient weapon." The realization hits Carl like a plasma blast. His accidental participation could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. As they prepare to face the next trial, Carl knows that the fate of human-Katarian relations hangs in the balance. Time ticks away. Carl's body continues to change. Belle grapples with her conflicting loyalties. And deep within the temple, an ancient power awakens, waiting to be claimed by those who prove worthy. Carl takes a deep breath, steeling himself for what's to come. "Ready?" he asks Belle. She nods, determination etched on her alien features. "Ready." Together they step into the unknown, their unlikely partnership the galaxy's last hope for peace, or its path to destruction. Carl and Belle step forward, the weight of their shared destiny heavy upon them. The temple's interior shifted, rearranging itself into a vast labyrinthine chamber. Pulsing energy fields crisscross the space, casting an eerie blue glow over the shifting walls. "Initiating physical compatibility trial," the AI's voice echoed. "Subjects must navigate the maze and reach the central platform within the allotted time." Carl's military instincts kicked in as he scanned the environment. "We need to move fast and stay alert. Those energy fields look deadly." Belle nodded, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the ethereal light. "The walls aren't random. There's a pattern to their movement based on ancient Katarian algorithms." As they ventured into the maze, Carl felt a strange tingling sensation coursing through his body. He glanced down at his arms, noticing the bluish tint spreading across his skin. "Belle, look, the changes are accelerating." She examined him closely, antenna twitching with curiosity. "Your body is adapting to the temple's energy. It should enhance your physical capabilities." Carl tested his limbs, surprised by the surge of strength and agility he felt. As they navigated the twisting corridors, he found himself able to leap over gaps and duck under barriers with unprecedented ease. Belle's knowledge proved invaluable as she deciphered the maze's logic. The pattern repeats every 7th cycle. We can predict the wall movements if we time it right. Working in tandem, they made swift progress. Carl's newfound agility allowed him to scout ahead, while Bell's expertise guided them through the most efficient route. As they neared the center, the challenges intensified. Energy fields pulsed more frequently, and the walls shifted at dizzying speeds. In a particularly treacherous section, Carl spotted a gap closing rapidly. Without hesitation, he grabbed Bell's hand and pulled her through, their bodies barely clearing the space as it sealed shut behind them. Breathless, they found themselves in a small circular chamber. At its center stood a pedestal holding a glowing data crystal. The AI's voice rang out once more. "Physical trial complete. Proceed to data extraction." Bell approached the crystal cautiously. This is ancient Katarian technology. It contains information crucial to the ritual. As she activated the crystal, a holographic display filled the room. Streams of alien text and diagrams flowed around them. Carl watched in awe as Bell's eyes darted back and forth, absorbing the information. "Carl, this is incredible," she gasped. "The mating ritual isn't just about compatibility. It's a process to unlock hidden genetic potential in both participants." Carl's mind raced with the implications. What kind of potential are we talking about? Bell's expression was a mix of excitement and apprehension. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, possibly even telepathic abilities. But there's more. This crystal contains encrypted data about a weapon of immense power. Before Carl could respond, the chamber walls retracted, revealing a group of armed Tarian guards. At their head stood an imposing figure with ornate markings on his blue skin. "I am Commander Zax," he announced, his voice filled with authority. "Explain yourselves immediately." Carl tensed, ready for a fight, but Bell stepped forward. "Commander, I invoke the ancient laws of our people. This human has been chosen by the temple for the sacred ritual. It must not be interrupted." Zax's eyes narrowed as he studied Carl. "A human participating in our most sacred rite? This is unprecedented." "Nevertheless," Bell pressed, "the law is clear. The ritual must continue." After a tense moment, Zax nodded reluctantly. "Very well, but know this, human. Both your people and ours are now aware of what transpires here. The fate of our species may rest on the outcome of this ritual." As the Ktarian guards retreated, Carl and Bell exchanged glances. The weight of their responsibility had just increased tenfold. The AI's voice cut through the silence. "Initiating mental synchronization trial. Proceed to the designated chamber." A doorway appeared, leading to a room bathed in soft, pulsating light. As they approached, Carl felt a knot forming in his stomach. "Bell, I'm not sure about this," he admitted. "A psychic link? There are things in my mind, military secrets, personal memories." Bell's antenna drooped slightly, betraying her own nervousness. "I understand, Carl. This level of intimacy is daunting, but it's necessary for the ritual's completion." They stepped into the chamber, the door sealing behind them. The light intensified, enveloping them in a cocoon of energy. "Prepare yourselves," the AI intoned. "Mental synchronization will commence in 3, 2, 1. Carl's world exploded into a kaleidoscope of memories and emotions. He felt Bell's presence in his mind, alien yet somehow familiar. As their thoughts began to merge, he braced himself for the unknown consequences of this deep, unprecedented connection. As Carl braced himself for the unknown consequences of the deep, unprecedented connection, the world around him dissolved into a swirling vortex of light and sensation. The pulsating energy intensified, enveloping both Carl and Bell in a cocoon of shimmering radiance. "Mental synchronization initiated," the AI's voice echoed, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Carl felt a sudden rush, as if his consciousness was expanding beyond the confines of his body. His mind reached out, tentatively at first, then with growing urgency as it sought Bell's alien presence. The first contact was gentle, like ripples in a pond where two stones had been dropped. Surface thoughts and emotions flowed between them, creating a bridge of shared experience. Carl gasped as vivid images flashed through his mind. Belle as a child, her multifaceted eyes wide with wonder, as she gazed up at a star-filled sky for the first time. In turn, Belle witnessed Carl's past unfold before her. She felt the weight of his plasma rifle during basic training, experienced the mix of anticipation and fear as he boarded the transport for his first deployment to Xeria. As the connection deepened, more intimate memories emerged. Carl found himself reliving Belle's coming-of-age ceremony, understanding for the first time the true significance of the mating ritual they were now undertaking. The importance of this ancient tradition in Catarian culture washed over him, bringing with it a newfound respect for the gravity of their situation. Belle, meanwhile, delved into Carl's past relationships. She experienced the awkward fumbling of his first kiss, the heartbreak of lost love, the complex web of human courtship and sexuality. Each memory brought with it a flood of unfamiliar emotions, overwhelming in their intensity. The psychic link grew stronger, pushing both participants to their mental limits. Carl gritted his teeth, struggling to maintain his sense of self as alien thoughts and sensations threatened to drown out his own. He felt Belle's consciousness pressing against his, equally desperate to retain her identity in the face of this onslaught. Suddenly, the connection reached a critical point. Carl's mind merged completely with Belle's, their individual identities blurring until it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. In this moment of perfect unity, a torrent of information flooded their shared consciousness, genetic memories stored deep within the very fabric of their DNA. Ancient knowledge, both human and Tarian, unfolded before them. Carl Bell saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth of stars and the death of worlds. And there, hidden among the vast expanse of shared memory, they found the truth about the Tarian weapon. It wasn't a device or a piece of technology, but a latent ability within their very beings. The mating ritual was the key to unlocking this power, the ability to manipulate energy fields on a massive scale. Carl Bell saw visions of entire fleets reduced to atoms, of planets shielded from the ravages of solar flares. As this knowledge settled into their shared mind, Carl and Belle's bodies began to change more rapidly. Carl's skin tingled as it fully adopted the blue tint of the Catarians, while Belle felt her features shift, becoming slightly more human-like. Their physiologies adapted, preparing them for the physical aspects of the ritual yet to come. The mental synchronization began to wane, individual consciousness reasserting itself. As Carl and Belle slowly separated, they found themselves forever changed. The bond between them now ran deeper than either could have imagined possible. Carl opened his eyes, blinking in the soft light of the chamber. He turned to Belle, seeing her as if for the first time. Every facet of her alien features now held new meaning, a beauty he had been blind to before. Belle met his gaze, her antenna twitching with a mixture of emotions. "Carl," she whispered, her voice filled with awe and something more. I understand now. Everything." Carl nodded, words failing him. He reached out, taking Belle's hand in his own. The simple touch sent a jolt through both of them, their newly synchronized bodies reacting to the contact. The AI's voice broke the moment of quiet intimacy. "Mental synchronization trial complete. Prepare for the next phase, physical compatibility and ability testing." As they stepped out of the chamber, Commander Zax awaited them, his eyes widening at the visible changes in both participants. He activated a communication device, speaking urgently in the Catarian language. Carl, with his newfound understanding of Catarian culture and language, caught fragments of the conversation. Zax was reporting to his superiors, expressing both fascination and concern over the unprecedented pairing of human and Catarian in this ancient ritual. Belle squeezed Carl's hand, drawing his attention. "We need to focus," she said, her voice low. "The next trial will test our physical compatibility and the abilities we've unlocked. Are you ready?" Carl took a deep breath, feeling the power thrumming through his transformed body. He nodded, meeting Belle's gaze with willpower. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this." Together, they approached the entrance to the next chamber. The door slid open, revealing a vast arena filled with obstacles and shimmering energy fields. As they stepped inside, Carl and Belle knew that each challenge they faced would bring them closer to unlocking the full potential of the Catarian weapon and to forever altering the balance of power in the galaxy. The door sealed behind them with a resounding thud, leaving Carl and Belle alone to face whatever trials lay ahead. The arena hummed with energy, awaiting the next phase of their extraordinary journey. The vast chamber before them pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its terrain in constant flux. Carl and Bell exchanged a determined glance, their newly forged bond humming between them. Physical, compatibility, and ability testing will now commence, the AI announced, its voice echoing through the arena. Adapt and overcome. No sooner had the words faded than the floor beneath their feet began to shift. Platforms rose and fell, creating a treacherous path across a sea of bubbling green liquid. The acrid smell assaulted their nostrils, leaving no doubt about its corrosive nature. Carl's enhanced muscles tensed as he gauged the distance to the nearest platform. "We move together," he said to Belle, feeling her agreement through their shared link. They leapt in unison, their bodies moving with a grace that belied their different origins. Carl's foot touched down a fraction of a second before Belle's, and he instinctively reached out to steady her. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through them both, their synchronized physiology amplifying the sensation. As they navigated the shifting maze, Carl marveled at how naturally they fell into rhythm. When he ducked, Belle was already moving to cover his exposed flank. When she hesitated before a particularly wide gap, he was there to offer a steadying hand. Halfway through the course, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Dozens of metallic spheres emerged from hidden compartments, their surfaces glowing with almost unchecked energy. "Evasive maneuvers!" Carl barked, his military training kicking in. He pulled Belle behind a raised section of flooring just as a barrage of stun beams lanced through the space they'd occupied. Belle's antenna twitched, her heightened senses processing the new threat. "The drones are following a pattern," she said, her eyes tracking their movements. "There's a flaw in their targeting algorithm." Carl nodded, formulating a plan. "I'll draw their fire. You find a way to disable them." He darted out from cover, zigzagging between platforms as stun beams sizzled past him. Through their link, he fed Belle information on the drone's weak points, knowledge gleaned from countless battles against similar tech. Belle's mind raced, combining Carl's tactical insights with her own understanding of Terrian systems. She spotted a vulnerability, a small access port on the underside of each drone. "Carl, I need you to get me close to one of them," she called out. Without hesitation, Carl changed course, leading a group of drones towards Belle's position. As he neared, he felt a strange tingling in his palms. Acting on instinct, he thrust his hands forward. A shimmering field of energy sprang into existence, deflecting the incoming stun beams. Belle's eyes widened at the display, but she didn't hesitate. As Carl brought the drones within range, she leapt, her fingers finding the access port with uncanny precision. A surge of bioelectric energy, another newfound ability, short-circuited the drone systems. One by one, they neutralized the threat, their movements becoming more fluid and coordinated with each success. As the last drone clattered to the ground, they stood back to back, breathing heavily but exhilarated. The arena shifted once more, the platform sinking away to reveal a towering structure at its center. It pulsed with an otherworldly light, its surface writhing with tendrils of energy. "Final stage initiated," the AI intoned. "Ascend and synchronize." Carl and Belle approached the base of the tower, feeling the immense power radiating from it. As they began to climb, the structure's energy intensified, creating pockets of distorted gravity that threatened to tear them from its surface. Carl grunted with effort as he fought against a sudden increase in his apparent weight. He reached out with his mind, feeling for the energy that had allowed him to create shields earlier. With concentration, he managed to project a field that neutralized the gravitational anomaly. Belle, meanwhile, found her senses sharpening even further. She could perceive the ebb and flow of the tower's energy, anticipating each gravitational shift before it occurred. "Left," she called out, guiding Carl away from a particularly strong distortion. They ascended in this manner, Carl maintaining a protective field while Belle navigated them through the least treacherous path. The exertion was immense, taxing both their physical and mental reserves. As they neared the summit, the tower's energy reached a fever pitch. Multicolored light engulfed them, penetrating to their very core. Carl felt his body changing once more, his musculature shifting to more closely resemble Qatarian physiology. Beside him, Belle gasped as her skin took on a pinkish hue, becoming more human-like in texture. Their minds expanded, tapping into deeper levels of shared genetic memory. Fragments of ancient knowledge flash between them. The rise and fall of civilizations, the secrets of energy manipulation, the true nature of the power they were unlocking. The light faded, leaving them standing atop the tower, face to face. Carl stared into Belle's multifaceted eyes, seeing himself reflected in their depths. The attraction between them was palpable, transcending the boundaries of their respective species. Drawn by an irresistible force, they leaned towards each other. Carl's heart raced as he felt Belle's breath on his skin, their lips mere inches apart. Suddenly, the entire chamber shuddered violently. Alarms blared, shattering the moment. The AI's voice cut through the chaos. Warning, unauthorized breach detected. Ritual interruption imminent. The door to the chamber burst open, revealing Commander Zax flanked by Katarian guards. His expression was a mix of awe and concern as he took in Carl and Belle's transformed appearances. A joint human-Katarian task force has breached the outer defenses, Zax reported, his voice tight with tension. They're demanding access to the temple and to you both. Carl's mind reeled. He recognized the tactics being employed. This was a human military operation. But why? And why now, when they were so close to completing the ritual? Before he could voice his questions, the AI spoke again. Caution, ritual interruption at this stage may trigger fail-safe protocols. Termination of all participants and destruction of the temple complex is possible. Carl and Belle exchanged a look of shared dedication. They had come too far, endured too much to turn back now. But with both human and Katarian authorities converging on their position, the choice before them was fraught with consequences that extended far beyond their personal fates. As the sounds of approaching forces grew louder, Carl and Belle steeled themselves for the most challenging trial yet, one that would test not just their newfound abilities, but the very bond they had forged in the crucible of the temple's trials. Trials. As the sounds of approaching forces grew louder, Carl and Belle steeled themselves for the most challenging trial yet, one that would test not just their newfound abilities, but the very bond they had forged in the crucible of the temple's trials. In that moment, a shared understanding passed between them. They couldn't stop now, not when they were so close to unlocking something truly extraordinary. Carl nodded to Belle, his eyes conveying his unwavering commitment. "We continue," Belle said, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. As if sensing their determination, the temple AI's voice cut through the din. "Initiating final phase of the ritual. Prepare for full immersion." The chamber around them shimmered and dissolved, replaced by a lush, alien landscape. Dense foliage surrounded them, filled with plants that pulsed with an inner light. Strange, translucent creatures floated through the air, their bodies undulating gracefully as they navigated between the towering trees. Carl blinked, his enhanced senses overwhelmed by the sudden shift in environment. "Is this real?" he asked, reaching out to touch a nearby leaf. It felt solid under his fingers, its surface cool and slightly damp. Belle's antenna twitched as she took in their surroundings. "It's a simulation, but incredibly advanced. I can sense the energy patterns sustaining it." The AI's voice echoed through the forest. "This trial will test your ability to function as a single entity. Maintain physical contact at all times to stabilize your partially merged physiologies. Failure to do so may result in the cellular degradation." As if to emphasize the point, Carl felt a wave of dizziness wash over him the moment Belle took a step away. He quickly closed the distance between them, grasping her hand. The contact sent a surge of energy through his body, steadying him. "Looks like we're in this together," Carl said, offering a wry smile. Belle squeezed his hand in response. "As we should be." No sooner had the words left her mouth than the forest came alive with danger. A vine-like tendril whipped out from a nearby tree, its thorny surface glistening with what could only be venom. Carl reacted instinctively, raising his free hand to generate an energy shield. The vine bounced harmlessly off the shimmering barrier. "Nice reflexes," Belle commented, her eyes scanning the canopy above. "But we've got more company." A flock of bat-like creatures dove from the treetops, their leathery wings beating furiously as they homed in on the pair. Belle closed her eyes, concentrating. Carl felt a pulse of energy through their joined hands, and suddenly his vision sharpened. He could see the minute details of the creature's anatomy, the weak points in their wing structure. Acting on this shared knowledge, Carl and Bell moved in perfect synchronization. They ducked and weaved through the air, Carl's energy manipulation keeping the creatures at bay, while Bell's enhanced perception guided their movements. Within moments, the attackers retreated, screeching in frustration. As they caught their breath, Carl marveled at the seamless way they had worked together. "That was incredible," he said. "It's like I could feel what you were thinking." Bell nodded, her expression one of wonder. "Our connection is growing stronger. We need to keep moving, though. I sense more challenges ahead." They pressed on through the dense undergrowth, their steps falling into a natural rhythm. The forest seemed to react to their presence, trees shifting to block their path, while carnivorous plants snapped at their heels. Each obstacle forced them to rely more heavily on their shared abilities. As they approached a wide chasm, Carl felt a surge of apprehension. The gap was too wide to jump, and no obvious path presented itself. Bell squeezed his hand, her thoughts brushing against his mind. "Together," she said simply. They raised their free hands in unison, concentrating on the energy flowing between them. A bridge of pure light materialized across the chasm, its surface shimmering but solid. They crossed quickly, the bridge dissipating behind them as soon as they reached the other side. The trials grew more intense as they progressed. They scaled a sheer cliff face, fending off aggressive flying creatures with bursts of psychic energy. In a maze-like cave system, they navigated through clouds of toxic spores, their combined abilities creating a protective bubble around them. With each challenge, Carl noticed subtle changes in their appearance. His skin took on more of the blue tint characteristic of Catarians, while Bell's features became slightly more human. Their physical forms seemed to be seeking a balance, a perfect synthesis of their two species. As they emerged from the cave system into a small clearing, Carl felt a sudden shift in the air. Two figures materialized before them, holographic projections of their former selves. Carl found himself staring at his fully human doppelganger, while beside him stood a pure Catarian version of Bell. The AI's voice echoed through the clearing. "Confront your past selves. Overcome your final doubts." The projections attacked without warning. Carl's human self moved with military precision, while Bell's Catarian double utilized advanced combat techniques. For a moment, Carl felt a pang of uncertainty. Was he truly ready to leave his old self behind? He felt a surge of reassurance through his link with Bell. Their eyes met, and in that instant, all doubt vanished. They moved as one, their shared abilities manifesting in ways they hadn't yet explored. Carl's energy manipulation combined with Bell's psychic prowess, creating a swirling vortex of power. The holographic attackers were caught in its pull, their forms distorting and breaking apart. With a final surge of effort, Carl and Bell released the energy in a blinding flash. As the light faded, they found themselves alone in the clearing. The forest around them began to shimmer and dissolve, replaced by the sterile walls of a small, intimate chamber. The AI's voice filled the space. "Physical trials complete. Prepare for the final stage of the mating ritual." Carl turned to Bell, acutely aware of the charge in the air between them. The attraction he had felt earlier had grown into something profound, a connection that transcended physical desire. Before they could speak, the chamber shuddered violently. Alarms blared, their shrill tones piercing the intimate atmosphere. The AI's voice took on an urgent tone. "Warning! Massive energy buildup detected in planet's crust. Ancient Catarian terraforming technology activated." Carl's mind raced as he processed the implications. The ritual? It's affecting the entire planet? Bell's eyes widened in realization. If we continue, we could make Xeria habitable for both our species. But at what cost? As the chamber began to fill with a soft, pulsating light, signaling the start of the ritual's most intimate phase, Carl and Bell stood frozen in indecision. The fate of two species and an entire world hung in the balance, their next move poised to alter the course of galactic history. The light grew more intense, enveloping them in its warm glow. Carl felt the pull of the ritual, urging him to complete what they had started. He looked into Bell's eyes, seeing his own conflict mirrored there. Whatever they decided, they would face the consequences together. Together. The energy pulsing through the chamber seemed to echo their shared heartbeats, growing more insistent with each passing second. Carl took a deep breath, his gaze locked with Belle's. In that moment, a wordless understanding passed between them. They had come too far to turn back now. The potential benefits of completing the ritual outweighed the risks, even with the fate of an entire planet hanging in the balance. "We finished this," Carl said, his voice barely above a whisper. Belle nodded, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the swirling lights around them. Together. As if responding to their decision, the chamber's walls shimmered and became translucent. The scene beyond was chaos incarnate. Human and Katarian forces clashed at the temple's outer defenses, energy weapons flashing in the alien twilight. The ground itself seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, a testament to the ancient technology stirring beneath the surface. The AI's voice cut through their observations, calm and inexorable. "Final phase initiated. Prepare for complete fusion." An irresistible force drew Carl and Belle together, their bodies moving of their own accord. As their skin made contact, a jolt of energy surged through them both. Carl gasped, his mind expanding beyond the confines of his skull. He could feel Belle's thoughts, her emotions, as clearly as his own. Their partially merged physiologies began to shift and change, seeking perfect alignment. The mating ritual began in earnest, their bodies intertwining as waves of pleasure and power washed over them. Carl marveled at the sensations, unlike anything he had ever experienced. Every touch, every movement, sent cascades of energy rippling through his being and into Belle. As their union intensified, Carl's perception expanded further. He could sense the complex web of energy flowing through the temple, stretching deep into Zaria's crust. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Their mating was acting as a catalyst, awakening the dormant Katarian terraforming technology. Belle's voice echoed in his mind, tinged with awe and a hint of fear. "Carl, do you feel it? The planet, it's changing." He did feel it. The ground beneath them trembled, a deep rumbling that seemed to come from the planet's very core. Through their enhanced senses, they could perceive the massive energy spikes rippling across Zaria's surface. Outside the temple, the battling forces paused as the tremors intensified. General Laura Steele, her face illuminated by the eerie glow emanating from the ground, barked orders into her comm unit. "All personnel, fall back. Initiate emergency evacuation protocols immediately." Across the battlefield, Ambassador Vex issued similar commands to the Katarian forces. The two leaders locked eyes for a moment, mutual understanding passing between them. Whatever was happening inside the temple, it was beyond their control now. Inside the chamber, Carl and Belle's mating ritual reached its apex. A blinding flash of energy engulfed them, and suddenly their consciousness expanded to encompass the entire planet. In that moment of transcendence, they understood the true nature of the terraforming process and realized they had the power to guide it. Acting on instinct, Carl and Belle worked in perfect unison, their minds and bodies moving as one. They directed the surging energy, focusing on minimizing damage to existing structures while optimizing Zaria's environment. Under their guidance, the planet's transformation accelerated. Vast canyons filled with lush vegetation sprang up where barren wastelands had been moments before. The atmosphere thickened and changed composition, becoming breathable for both humans and Tarians. Rivers of glowing energy crisscrossed the landscape, feeding the rapid growth of alien flora. As the mating ritual concluded, Carl and Belle's bodies stabilized into their new hybrid form. Carl flexed his fingers, marveling at the subtle blue tint to his skin and the increased sensitivity of his touch. Belle's antenna twitched, adapting to the wealth of new sensory input. Their mental link, forged in the crucible of their union, hummed with shared thoughts and emotions. Carl sent a questioning tendril of thought towards Belle, who responded with a wave of affection and reassurance. The chamber's defenses powered down, the pulsing lights fading to a soft glow. The door slid open, revealing the astonished faces of General Steele and Ambassador Vex. "By all the stars," Steele breathed, her eyes wide as she took in Carl and Belle's transformed appearance. Vex's antenna quivered with awe-inspiring emotion. "What have you done?" Carl and Belle exchanged a glance, then stepped forward to face the leaders. "We've changed everything," Carl said, his voice resonating with newfound power. "And we need to talk." As they began to explain the situation, demonstrating their new abilities and sharing their vision for a transformed Zaria, Carl couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. They had unlocked incredible potential, but he knew that the real challenges were just beginning. The leaders listened with growing amazement as Carl and Belle described the changes occurring across the planet. Steele's initial skepticism gave way to cautious optimism as she grasped the implications of a world that could support both species. A joint colony, she mused, her tactical mind already considering the possibilities. It could revolutionize our relations with the Catarians. Vex nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Carl and Belle. "The Council will need to be informed immediately. This changes everything." As the group prepared to leave the temple and survey the transformed landscape, Carl felt a gentle pressure in his mind. The temple AI, its primary function complete, began to transfer its vast database of knowledge to him and Belle. Millennia of Tarian history and technological advancements flooded their shared consciousness. Carl staggered under the weight of the information, steadied by Belle's supportive hand on his arm. "Are you all right?" Steele asked, concern evident in her voice. Carl nodded, straightening up. "We're fine. Just processing." As they stepped out of the temple into the new world they had created, Carl and Belle knew that their journey was nowhere near the end. The challenges ahead would test not only their new abilities, but also their commitment to each other and their vision for the future. The transformed landscape of Zaria stretched out before them, a testament to the power of their union. But as the first reports of unrest and radical movements began to filter in from both human and Tarian space, Carl realized that their greatest trial was yet to come. Hand in hand, Carl and Belle faced the uncertain future, ready to fight for the new era they had ushered in, an era of potential harmony between their species, but one fraught with peril and opposition. Political and social upheaval. As they stepped out of the temple, the true magnitude of their actions became apparent. The landscape before them had transformed beyond recognition. Where once there were barren wastelands, now stood lush forests teeming with life. Toxic swamps had given way to pristine lakes, their surfaces shimmering in the alien twilight. The air, once thin and barely breathable, now felt rich and invigorating. General Steele's comm unit crackled with urgent messages. She turned to the group, her expression a mix of awe and concern. "We need to move. Our outposts are reporting widespread environmental changes. Some areas have become uninhabitable for our troops." Ambassador Vex's antenna twitched as he received similar reports from the Catarian forces. "It seems we have a common problem, General. Perhaps it's time we combined our efforts." Carl and Belle exchanged a glance, their mental link humming with shared thoughts. Carl spoke up, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "We can help guide the transformation. We're connected to the planet now, in ways we don't fully understand yet." As if to emphasize his point, Carl raised his hand, and a nearby patch of soil erupted with vibrant alien vegetation. Belle's eyes widened as she realized she could sense every detail of the process, from the molecular changes in the soil to the rapid growth of the plants. General Steele nodded, her tactical mind already formulating a plan. "We'll establish a joint scientific outpost to study these changes and to monitor your condition." The group made their way across the transforming landscape, Carl and Belle instinctively using their new abilities to create safe passages through the shifting terrain. As they walked, Carl felt a strange pressure building in his mind. Suddenly, a flood of information cascaded through his consciousness. He stumbled, caught by Belle's steady hand. "The AI," he gasped. "It's transferring its knowledge to us." Belle nodded, her face a mask of concentration, as she too processed the influx of data. Millennia of Catarian history, technological advancements, it's overwhelming. As they approached the hastily established joint outpost, Carl and Belle became aware of a new sensation. They could feel the pulse of energy flowing through the planet, the ebb and flow of the terraforming process. With a shared thought, they reached out, gently guiding the transformation to create balanced ecosystems. Inside the outpost, human and Tarian scientists worked side by side, their previous animosities forgotten in the face of this unprecedented event. Holographic displays showed the rapid changes occurring across Zeria's surface. Dr. Ilara Chen, the lead human xenobiologist, approached Carl and Bell with a mix of scientific curiosity and caution. We need to run some tests to understand how you're affecting the planet and how it's affecting you. As the couple underwent a battery of examinations, reports began flooding in from off-world. General Steele's face darkened as she read the latest intelligence briefing. We've got problems brewing. Extremist groups on both sides are calling for action against you two. Ambassador Vex joined her, his normally impassive face showing signs of worry. The Ancestral Purity League on my homeworld is demanding we destroy the temple and cleanse Zeria. They see your union as a threat to our genetic legacy. Carl felt a surge of protectiveness through his link with Bell. We won't let them undo what we've started here, he said, his voice firm. Bell nodded in agreement, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the commitment they both felt. This planet is transforming to support both our species. We have to protect it. As if in response to their words, the ground beneath the outpost trembled. Carl and Bell simultaneously extended their senses, realizing that the tremors weren't natural. They were being caused by the temple itself. It's reconfiguring, Bell explained, her voice filled with awe. The AI is deconstructing its physical form, spreading its technology across the planet's surface. The scientists scrambled to their monitoring equipment, confirming Bell's statement. The temple was indeed dissolving, its advanced components forming a network of terraforming nodes across Zeria. As the transformation continued, Carl and Bell found their own bodies adapting to the changing environment. They discovered they could breathe easily in areas that were toxic to others and move with increased strength in zones of fluctuating gravity. Dr. Chen approached them with the latest test results, her eyes wide with excitement. Your hybrid physiology is remarkable. You're adapting to Zeria's changes faster than we can measure them. Before they could discuss the implications of this discovery, alarms blared throughout the outpost. General Steele rushed to the command center, her face grim. We've got incoming. Looks like those extremist groups decided to take matters into their own hands. Ambassador Vex joined her at the tactical display. We need to form a joint defense force. It's the only way to protect the outpost. And them, he said, gesturing towards Carl and Bell. As the human and Qatarian military leaders began coordinating their defenses, Carl and Bell shared a moment of silent communication. They could sense the delicate balance they had created was under threat, but they also felt a surge of persistence. They had started this transformation, and they would see it through, regardless of the cost. The couple stepped outside the outpost, their hybrid forms silhouetted against the ever-changing landscape of Zeria. As they prepared to face the oncoming storm, they knew that their greatest challenges and discoveries still lay ahead. The transformed landscape of Zeria stretched out before them, a testament to the power of their union. As Carl and Bell surveyed the rapidly changing terrain, a low hum filled the air. The couple's enhanced senses picked up on the vibration before anyone else, and they instinctively reached out with their newfound abilities to investigate its source. Something's coming, Carl said, his voice tight with tension. Something big. Before General Steele or Ambassador Vex could respond, a massive ship materialized in the sky above them. Its sleek, otherworldly design was unlike anything they had ever seen, neither human nor Qatarian in origin. By the stars, Vex breathed, his antenna quivering. What is that? The ship descended, landing with surprising grace on a nearby clearing. A hatch opened, and a delegation of beings emerged. Leading them was a towering, multi-limbed creature that moved with fluid grace despite its imposing size. I am Ambassador Zorn of the Galactic Concordat, the being announced, its voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. We demand an immediate audience with the human Qatarian hybrids and your leaders. Carl and Bell exchanged a glance, their mental link buzzing with shared apprehension. General Steele stepped forward, her hand resting on her sidearm. I'm General Steele of the Earth Alliance. This is Ambassador Vex of the Catarian hegemony. We were unaware of any galactic concordat. Zorn's multiple eyes blinked in unison. Your ignorance was by design. We have monitored your species for centuries. Now, your actions have forced our hand. The group was ushered into a hastily prepared meeting room within the joint outpost. Carl could feel the tension radiating from both human and Tarian personnel as they passed. Once inside, Ambassador Zorn wasted no time in revealing the true nature of their visit. The Galactic Concordat has been guiding the development of both human and Catarian civilizations, Zorn explained, its limbs gesticulating in complex patterns. We have been steering you towards an eventual conflict. The mating ritual and terraforming technology were safeguards, designed to prevent either species from gaining too much power. Bell's multifaceted eyes widened in shock. You've been manipulating us? Why? Zorn's gaze fixed on the hybrid couple. Your successful completion of the ritual and the transformation of Zeria have disrupted our carefully laid plans. We cannot allow this to continue. The ambassador's next words sent a chill through the room. You must undergo a separation procedure to reverse your hybridization, or we will be forced to sterilize both Earth and the Catarian homeworld to prevent further interbreeding. Stunned silence fell over the group. General Steele was the first to recover, her voice sharp with anger. You have no right to make such demands. We won't stand for this threat to our people. As arguments erupted around them, Carl and Bell retreated into their mental link, rapidly processing the information they had received. Suddenly, Carl's eyes lit up with an idea. The rare element, he said aloud, cutting through the heated debate. We can use it to create an energy shield that could protect both Earth and Taria. Bell nodded, catching on to his train of thought. We could act as conduits, channeling the energy through Zeria's terraforming network. Ambassador Zorn's multiple limbs twitched in agitation. Such an attempt would be foolish and futile. You cannot hope to stand against the Concordat's power. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the outpost. General Steele rushed to a nearby console, her face grim as she read the incoming reports. We've got multiple attacks on key installations across the planet, she announced. It's Purity First and the Ancestral Purity League. They're using advanced weapons we've never seen before. Vex's antenna quivered with alarm. How did they acquire such technology? Carl's eyes narrowed as he looked at Ambassador Zorn. I think we can guess. As chaos erupted around them, Carl and Bell shared a determined look. They knew what they had to do. Without a word, they slipped out of the meeting room and made their way towards the heart of Zeria's terraforming network. Behind them, they could hear General Steele barking orders, organizing a joint human-Catarian defense force. Ambassador Vex's voice joined hers, the former enemies now united against a common threat. Carl and Bell moved swiftly through the transformed landscape, their hybrid physiology allowing them to navigate the shifting terrain with ease. They could feel the pulse of the planet beneath their feet, the raw energy waiting to be harnessed. As they approached the central node of the terraforming network, the sound of battle reached their ears. Explosions lit up the horizon, and the sky was filled with the contrails of ships engaged in aerial combat. We don't have much time, Bell said, her voice tight with urgency. Carl nodded, placing his hand on the pulsing core of the node. Let's hope this works. As they began to channel the planet's energy, Carl and Bell felt a surge of power unlike anything they had experienced before. Their bodies glowed with an otherworldly light, the energy flowing through them and into the nascent shield. In orbit above Zeria, massive Concordat warships appeared, their weapons primed and ready to fire. On the ground, the battle raged as human and Catarian forces fought side by side against the extremist attackers. Carl and Bell stood at the eye of the storm, their bodies stretched to the breaking point as they struggled to complete the shield. As the energy built to a crescendo, they experienced a moment of perfect synchronization with Zeria itself. In that instant, they glimpsed the true nature of the galaxy and the forces at play. They saw a greater threat lurking in the depths of space, a danger that only a unified human-Tarian civilization might be able to face. As the shield neared completion, Carl and Bell's transformation reached a critical point. Their bodies began to emit a blinding light, pulsing in sync with Zeria's core. The fate of their newly forged hybrid identity and the future of human-Qatarian relations hung in the balance as the energy buildup reached its climax. The Concordat fleet closed in, their weapons charging. On the planet's surface, General Steele and Ambassador Vex led a desperate last stand against the extremist forces. And at the heart of it all, Carl and Bell poured every ounce of their being into the shield, their bodies and minds pushed to the very limit of what they could endure. As the energy reached its peak, a brilliant flash of light engulfed Zeria, momentarily blinding everyone on the planet and in orbit. When it faded, the true extent of Carl and Bell's actions would be revealed, and the future of 3 civilizations would be forever altered. As the energy reached its peak, a brilliant flash of light engulfed Zeria, momentarily blinding everyone on the planet and in orbit. When it faded, the true extent of Carl and Bell's actions was revealed. The shield burst into existence, a shimmering dome of energy that expanded rapidly, enveloping not only Zeria, but Earth and the Qatarian homeworld as well. The sudden appearance caught the galactic Concordat fleet off guard. Several of their massive warships, unable to alter course in time, crashed into the barrier and exploded in spectacular fireballs. At the heart of the terraforming network, Carl and Bell's bodies began to change. The energy coursing through them reached a critical point, and their forms started to merge at a molecular level. Their separate consciousnesses swirled together, becoming one as their physical forms fused into a single radiant being of immense power. The new entity, which retained the essence of both Carl and Bell, rose from the surface of Zeria. It was surrounded by a swirling vortex of terraforming energy, its form pulsing with otherworldly light. The merged Carl Bell being stretched out with its newfound senses, instantly connecting to the entire shield network. In that moment, it gained access to all communication systems on Earth, Qataria, and Zeria. Without hesitation, it broadcast a message across all 3 worlds. People of Earth and Qataria, the entity's voice resonated in every mind, a perfect blend of Carl and Bell's tones. We have been deceived. The galactic Concordat has manipulated our civilizations for centuries, steering us towards conflict. But we are not pawns in their game. We are architects of our own destiny. The revelation sent shockwaves through both societies. On Earth and Qataria, hidden Concordat agents found themselves exposed as crowds turned against them. The carefully laid plans of millennia began to unravel in a matter of minutes. Ambassador Zorn, watching from the command deck of the Concordat flagship, realized their grand design had failed. With a series of rapid gestures, the ambassador activated a hidden console. "If we cannot control them, we will destroy them all," Zorn hissed, initiating the doomsday device concealed within the ship's core. The Carl Bell entity sensed the surge of destructive energy building within the Concordat fleet. It reacted instantly, extending tendrils of pure energy that enveloped the ships. In a display of power that defied comprehension, it began to deconstruct the vessels at an atomic level. The Concordat crew watched in horror as their advanced technology dissolved around them. The Carl Bell being absorbed not only their ships, but the very knowledge and memories of those aboard. The doomsday device, moments from detonation, was neutralized and its energy harmlessly dispersed. On the surface of Zeria, the battle between the joint human-Qatarian forces and the extremist groups took an unexpected turn. The planet itself seemed to come alive, responding to the conflict. Hybrid plants burst from the ground, entangling weapons and vehicles. New animal species, neither fully Earth nor Qatarian in origin, emerged from the transformed landscape to defend key installations. General Steele and Ambassador Vex stood side by side, watching in awe as Zeria's ecosystem joined the fray. They shared a look of understanding, recognizing the futility of continued conflict in the face of such unprecedented change. "All forces, ceasefire immediately," Steele's voice rang out over the battlefield. "This is General Steele of the Earth Alliance, calling for an immediate cessation of hostilities." Vex stepped forward, his antenna quivering with emotion. "This is Ambassador Vex of the Qatarian hegemony. I second the call for ceasefire. Let us put aside our differences and forge a new path together." Their joint declaration, amplified by the Carl Bell entity through the shield network, began to quell the fighting. weapons lowered, and former enemies looked at each other with newfound uncertainty and curiosity. As peace slowly descended on Zaria, the Carl Bell entity hovered above, its form flickering with terrifying power. It had absorbed millennia of cosmic knowledge from the Concordat ships, and with that came a terrifying realization. The entity broadcast another message, its voice tinged with urgency. We face a greater threat than we could have imagined. A swarm of cosmic entities approaches from the galactic fringe, devouring worlds in its path. Our newfound unity is not just desirable, it is necessary for our survival. The Carl Bell being's form pulsed erratically as it spoke, energy arcing from its body in brilliant flashes. The immense power it wielded was proving difficult to control, threatening to tear apart the merged consciousness of Carl and Bell. As the immediate crisis subsided and the implications of recent events began to sink in, the Carl Bell entity found itself at a crossroads. The power to protect both species from the coming threat was at its fingertips, but at the cost of Carl and Bell's individual identities. The choice it faced would shape not only its own existence, but the future of human-Qatarian relations and the fate of the galactic realm itself. The entity's form flickered once more, a visual representation of the internal struggle between cosmic responsibility and the desire for individual existence. As it hovered above the transformed landscape of Zaria, the merged being knew that its next decision would set the course for the challenges that lay ahead. The Carl Bell entity hesitated, its form shimmering with nearly unleashed power. The merged consciousness knew it had to act quickly before the instability threatened not just its own existence, but the safety of the three worlds it now protected. With a thought, the entity descended rapidly towards the surface of Zaria, leaving a trail of crackling energy in its wake. As it neared the ground, the air around it began to warp and twist, the fabric of reality bending under the strain of its presence. General Steele and Ambassador Vex, who had been coordinating the planet's defenses, looked up in alarm as the entity approached. They could sense the danger radiating from the unstable being. "Clear the area," Steele barked into her comm unit. "Establish a perimeter and get our top scientists here now." Vex's antenna twitched nervously as he added, "Bring the Qatarian bioengineers as well. We may need their expertise." As the Carl Bell entity touched down, the ground beneath its feet cracked and shifted. Waves of energy pulsed outward, causing the nearby vegetation to grow and mutate at an alarming rate. Trees twisted into impossible shapes, their leaves shimmering with an otherworldly light. The entity's voice, a blend of Carl and Bell's, echoed in the minds of those nearby. "We cannot maintain this form. The power, it's too much. We must separate." Steele approached cautiously, her hand instinctively resting on her sidearm. "What do you need from us?" The entity's form flickered violently, sending out a shockwave that knocked several nearby soldiers off their feet. "Containment. Assistance. The process will be volatile." Within minutes, a joint team of human and Qatarian scientists arrived, led by Dr. Elena Rodriguez and the Qatarian xenobiologist Zalthak. They quickly set up a makeshift lab around the pulsing entity, their instruments struggling to make sense of the readings they were receiving. "We need to establish an energy-dampening field," Dr. Rodriguez shouted over the growing wind. "If we don't contain this, the entire planet's terraforming network could destabilize." Zalthak nodded, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly as he manipulated a complex array of bioorganic technology. "Agreed. We must also prepare for the possibility of severe genetic alteration in the subject's post-separation." As the scientists worked feverishly to prepare for the separation, the entity's instability grew. Suddenly, a massive surge of energy burst forth, overloading the nearby equipment and sending out a pulse that reverberated through Zaria's core. The planet's surface began to shift and change at an accelerated rate. In the distance, mountains rose and fell like waves on an ocean. Forests sprouted and withered in a matter of seconds. The newly established human Qatarian settlements in the affected areas sent out frantic distress calls as they were forced to evacuate. Within the containment field, the Carl Bell entity's form began to stretch and distort. The process of separation had begun, and it was clear that it would be far from painless. Screams of agony, both mental and physical, filled the air as Carl and Bell's consciousnesses began to tear apart. As they separated, flashes of cosmic knowledge seared through their minds. Visions of advanced technology, impending threats, and the true nature of the universe burned themselves into their memories. Even as their shared form disintegrated, they knew that this information would be crucial for the challenges ahead. The energy shield protecting the three worlds flickered dangerously. In orbit, the joint human-Catarian defense fleet scrambled to intercept several Concordate scout ships that had managed to slip through the temporary gaps in the barrier. Back on the surface, Carl and Belle's individual forms began to take shape. Their bodies, still glowing with residual energy, were noticeably different from their original human appearances. They retained some of their hybrid features. Carl's skin had a faint blue tint, while Belle's eyes shimmered with an inner light. As the separation neared its completion, a final surge of energy erupted from the pair. The blast overloaded Zaria's power grid, plunging the nearby facilities into darkness. When the light faded, Carl and Belle lay on the ground, physically separate but still connected by an invisible thread of psychic energy. Dr. Rodriguez rushed to their side, her medical scanner whirring as she checked their vital signs. They're stable, but their genetic structure has been significantly altered. We'll need to run more tests to understand the full extent of the changes. Zalthak joined her, his bioorganic sensors probing the area around the couple. Fascinating. They appear to have retained some of their enhanced abilities, albeit at a reduced level. And this psychic link between them, I've never seen anything like it. As Carl and Belle slowly regained consciousness, they became aware of the changes in their surroundings. The separation had accelerated the growth of Zaria's hybrid ecosystem. New species of plants and animals, born from the fusion of Earth and Catarian DNA, were already beginning to explore their new environment. Carl sat up, his head spinning. "Belle, are you okay?" Belle's voice answered in his mind before she could speak aloud. "I'm here, Carl. I can feel you in my thoughts." Their eyes met, and in that moment, they understood that their connection had been forever changed. They were separate beings once again, but the bond forged by their fusion would never truly fade. As they struggled to their feet, supported by the medical team, General Steele approached with a grim expression. "I'm glad to see you both in one piece, or rather, two pieces. But we have a situation developing. The energy discharge from your separation has done more than just accelerate Zaria's evolution. We've detected a concordate presence on the planet." Carl and Belle exchanged a worried glance, their shared knowledge of the concordate's capabilities flooding their linked minds. They knew that the fight for their future, and the future of their new hybrid world, was far from finished. Over. Carl and Belle exchanged a determined look, their minds already racing with strategies to confront this new threat. As they stood up, Belle suddenly stiffened, her eyes widening. "Carl, I sense something. Intruders in the facility." Before Carl could respond, alarms blared throughout the complex. General Steele's comm unit crackled to life, relaying urgent reports of a security breach. The Concordate had made their move. "Damn it," Steele growled. "We need to lock this place down now. Vex, get our joint task force mobilized." Ambassador Vex nodded, his antenna twitching as he relayed orders to the Catarian contingent. Meanwhile, Carl and Belle found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity as security personnel rushed to secure the area. "We can't let them take us," Carl said, his voice low and urgent. "We know too much about their plans." Belle nodded, her newly altered eyes gleaming with willpower. "We need to use what we've become to stop them." As they spoke, the sounds of combat echoed through the corridors. The Concordate strike team, led by the ruthless Agent Krell, had disabled the main communication systems and was swiftly advancing through the facility. Carl and Belle moved quickly, their movements perfectly synchronized thanks to their psychic link. They could sense each other's intentions, allowing them to coordinate their actions with uncanny precision. As they rounded a corner, they encountered a group of Concordate soldiers. Without hesitation, Carl extended his hand, focusing his residual energy manipulation abilities. A shimmering barrier sprang into existence, deflecting a barrage of energy blasts. Belle, capitalizing on the momentary confusion, reached out with her mind. The hybrid plants lining the walls suddenly sprang to life, their vines wrapping around the Concordate agent's weapons and limbs. "This way!" Carl called out, both verbally and mentally as they sprinted down an adjacent corridor. Their progress was halted by the appearance of Krell himself, flanked by two heavily armed operatives. The Concordat leader's eyes narrowed as he took in Carl and Bell's altered appearances. "Fascinating," Krell said, his voice cold and calculating. "Your transformation is even more complete than we anticipated. You will make excellent subjects for our research." "We're not going anywhere with you," Bell retorted, her fingers crackling with energy. Krell smirked, activating his personal shield generator. "I'm afraid you don't have a choice." The corridor erupted into chaos as both sides engaged. Carl's military training kicked in, allowing him to anticipate and counter the Concordat's tactics. Bell, drawing on her newfound knowledge of Katarian combat techniques, moved with fluid grace, her attacks precisely targeted to exploit weaknesses in the enemy's defenses. As the battle raged, a stray shot from one of Krell's matter disruptor weapons struck a nearby wall. The impact breached the containment field of an experimental terraforming node hidden within. Suddenly, the very fabric of the facility began to change. Walls rippled and flowed, sprouting alien vegetation. The floor beneath their feet became unstable, transforming into a bubbling, semi-liquid surface. The air filled with bioluminescent spores, casting an eerie glow over the mutating landscape. Carl and Bell, connected as they were to Zaria's evolving ecosystem, found they could influence these changes to a limited degree. With a shared thought, they caused the floor beneath the Concordat agents to soften, throwing off their balance. Krell, his face contorted with frustration, barked orders to his team. "Adapt to the environment. Don't let these abominations outmaneuver us." As the conflict intensified, Carl and Bell became aware of a growing danger. The malfunctioning terraforming node was becoming increasingly unstable, its energy threatening to spread beyond the confines of the facility. Through their psychic link, they shared a moment of silent communication. They knew what had to be done, despite the risks. Concentrating their combined will, Carl and Bell began to draw the excess terraforming energy into themselves. The process was agonizing, every cell in their bodies screaming as they absorbed the volatile power. Their forms began to glow, pulsing with scarcely controlled energy. The strain was immense, but they persevered, their shared dedication amplified by their mental connection. Empowered by the absorbed energy, Carl and Bell launched a final, desperate assault against Krell and his team. Moving faster than the eye could follow, they unleashed bursts of raw terraforming power that overwhelmed the Concordat's advanced technology. Krell, realizing his mission was failing, reached for a device on his belt, a dead man's switch designed to transmit all gathered data on Carl and Bell back to the Concordat fleet. Bell, sensing his intentions through her heightened awareness, lunged forward. She tackled Krell with inhuman speed, her body slamming into his with enough force to crack his personal shield. The impact sent the device skittering across the mutated floor, its transmission disrupted. Carl, seizing the opportunity, unleashed a final surge of energy that incapacitated the remaining Concordat agents. The corridor fell silent, save for the hum of residual energy and the soft squelching of the transformed environment. As the immediate threat subsided, the strain of containing the terraforming energy finally overwhelmed Carl and Bell. They collapsed to the ground, their bodies racked with spasms as the absorbed power continued to alter their physiology. Medical teams, led by Dr. Rodriguez and Zalthak, rushed to stabilize the hybrid couple. As they worked, the two scientists exchanged looks of astonishment. "Their genetic structure? It's changing again," Dr. Rodriguez murmured, her eyes fixed on her scanner's readout. Zalthak's multiple eyes blinked rapidly as he processed the data from his bioorganic sensors. Indeed, it appears the absorption of terraforming energy has triggered another phase of mutation. They are becoming something unprecedented. As Carl and Bell were rushed to a secure medical facility, General Steele and Ambassador Vex convened an emergency meeting. The implications of what had transpired were staggering, and decisions needed to be made quickly. "We need to understand what they're becoming," Steele said, her voice grave. "And we need to do it fast. If the Concordat was willing to risk such a bold move to capture them, we can bet they won't be giving up easily." Vex nodded, his antenna quivering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Agreed. I propose we establish a joint human-Catarian research team immediately. If we can understand, perhaps even replicate, this hybridization process, it could give us a crucial advantage against future threats. As plans were set in motion, Carl and Bell lay in adjacent medical pods, their bodies undergoing yet another transformation. Even in their unconscious state, their minds remained linked, sharing dreams of a future that was becoming increasingly uncertain and increasingly important to the fate of both their species. Species in three worlds. In the months that followed the Concordat attack, Carl and Bell found themselves at the center of an unprecedented scientific and military effort. Their bodies, still adapting to the latest surge of terraforming energy, became the subject of intensive study. Dr. Rodriguez and Zalthak worked tirelessly to understand the intricacies of their evolving physiology. Each day brought new discoveries, as Carl and Bell's abilities continued to develop in ways that defied conventional understanding. "It's remarkable," Dr. Rodriguez said one afternoon, reviewing the latest test results. "Their cellular structure is adapting at an exponential rate. It's as if their bodies are in constant communication with Zaria itself." Zalthak's multiple eyes blinked rapidly as he processed the data. Indeed, the symbiosis between their hybrid physiology and the planet's ecosystem is unlike anything we've ever encountered. As their bodies changed, so too did Carl and Bell's connection to each other and to their surroundings. What began as a simple psychic link evolved into something far more profound. They found themselves able to sense the intricate web of life that pulsed through Zaria's soil and air. One morning, while exploring a dense forest of hybrid vegetation, Carl suddenly stopped in his tracks. "Bell, do you feel that?" Bell nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like the trees are talking to us." They stood in silence, their minds open to the subtle whispers of the planet. Gradually, they began to discern patterns in the flow of energy around them. With concentration, they found they could influence the growth of plants, accelerate the healing of injured animals, and even calm violent weather patterns. Their newfound abilities did not go unnoticed. General Steele and Ambassador Vex quickly recognized the potential strategic value of Carl and Bell's evolving capabilities. "If we can harness this connection to Zaria's biosphere," Steele mused during a high-level briefing, "it could give us a significant advantage in defending against future threats." Vex nodded in agreement, his antennae quivering with excitement. "Perhaps more importantly, it could help us better understand and nurture this new world we've created." As Carl and Bell's training intensified, they began to push the boundaries of their abilities. During one particularly grueling session, they managed to synchronize their consciousnesses with a massive mycelial network that spanned an entire continent. The experience left them breathless and exhilarated. "It's incredible," Carl gasped, his eyes still glowing with residual energy. "It's like we can feel the heartbeat of the entire planet." Bell squeezed his hand, her own body humming with power. "And it's not just Zaria. I can sense echoes of Earth and Ctaria too. It's all connected somehow." Their breakthrough came during an expedition to a remote mountain range on Zaria's southern continent. As they hiked through a narrow ravine, Carl's foot caught on what appeared to be an ordinary rock. But as he stumbled, his hybrid energy signature triggered something hidden beneath the surface. The ground beneath them shuddered, and a section of the cliff face slid away to reveal a massive metal door covered in ancient Ctarian script. "Ambassador Vex!" Bell called into her communicator, her voice tight with excitement. "I think we've found something you need to see." Within hours, a joint humanitarian research team had arrived at the site. As they worked to decipher the locking mechanism, Carl and Bell felt a strange pull from within the mountain. "There's something in there," Carl murmured, pressing his hand against the cool metal of the door. "Something powerful." Bell nodded, her heightened senses picking up faint energy readings. "And it's calling to us." Before anyone could stop them, Carl and Bell placed their hands on the door's central panel. Their combined hybrid energy signature pulsed through the ancient mechanisms, and with a groan of protest, the massive door swung open. The team cautiously entered a vast underground chamber, their flashlights barely penetrating the darkness. As Carl and Bell stepped inside, bioluminescent panels along the walls flickered to life, revealing a sight that took their breath away. In the center of the chamber stood a towering crystalline structure, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. Katarian and human scientists alike gasped in awe as they recognized the artifact for what it was. "The Nexus Core," Ambassador Vex whispered, his voice filled with reverence. "A legend among my people. I never thought I'd see it with my own eyes." As the research team swarmed around the artifact, Carl and Bell found themselves drawn to its pulsing heart. They could feel its power resonating with their own hybrid energy, as if it had been waiting for them all along. "What exactly is this thing?" Carl asked, his eyes never leaving the shimmering core. Dr. Rodriguez, already busy scanning the artifact, looked up from her instruments with a mix of excitement and trepidation. If the legends are true, it's a device capable of manipulating space-time on a galactic scale. The potential applications are staggering. As the implications of their discovery began to sink in, a priority alert chimed on General Steele's communicator. Her face paled as she read the message. "We've got incoming," she announced, her voice cutting through the excited chatter. "The cosmic swarm has entered the outskirts of our solar system. Our outer defense fleet is engaging, but—" She paused, swallowing hard. "Their weapons are having no effect." A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the gravity of the situation sank in. The threat they had been preparing for was finally here, and they were running out of time. Carl and Bell exchanged a determined look, their minds already racing with possibilities. They turned to face the Nexus Core, its energy pulsing in sync with their own. "We need to activate it," Bell said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "It might be our only chance." Carl nodded, squeezing her hand. "Together, then?" As they stepped towards the artifact, Dr. Rodriguez called out, "Wait! We don't know what effect it might have on your physiology. The risks are—" "We don't have a choice," Carl interrupted, his eyes fixed on the shimmering core. "Earth, Kataria, Zaria, everything we've fought for is at stake." With a shared breath, Carl and Bell reached out and touched the surface of the Nexus Core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a surge of energy that sent everyone else in the chamber staggering backwards, the artifact blazed to life. Carl and Bell's bodies began to glow, their forms blurring as the power of the Nexus Core flowed through them. Their consciousnesses expanded, merging once again, but this time on a scale beyond anything they had experienced before. As the human-Katarian hybrid entity interfaced with the ancient device, they became aware of the vast tapestry of space-time spread out before them. They could sense the approaching cosmic swarm, a writhing mass of reality-warping entities that threatened to consume everything in its path. With a thought, they reached out, their combined will extending through the Nexus Core and beyond. The fabric of space-time rippled around them as they prepared to unleash the full power of the artifact against the incoming threat. The fate of 2 species and 3 worlds hung in the balance as Carl Bell, now one with the Nexus Core, prepared to face the cosmic swarm head-on. The battle for survival was about to begin, and the outcome would reshape the future of their entire galaxy.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.